Hello everyone, welcome to GoTarryn TV. This is Dr. T, PhD, the prodigy of sports psychology, and as you can tell, obviously I'm not in my office, but I'm outside, off route, remotely on location here, recording today as I'm going to be bringing on my very favorite guest back onto GoTarryn TV, Ms. Susan Longley with Finish with a Flourish. Now, before Susan rejoins us back here on today's show, I'd like to ask everyone out there if you please be so kind as to like this video, leave us a comment, and share it with all of your friends and family out there, because today we have an awesome episode for you here on GoTarryn TV. Susan has agreed to come on here and share an experience from herself, her own personal story and testimonial of how she's dealt with gut health. That's right, we're going to talk some gut health today. If anybody out there listening can relate to that, then you definitely want to tune in for the next 30 minutes, because Susan's going to break it down for us and talk from her own, again, experiences and her own perspective as well, and give us some guidance and help on how to deal with this, how to manage this type of gut health, which also impacts things like mental health, physical health, overall stress, and things like that that are all connected, because it is all interconnected, as we're going to find out here as we talk to Susan. So it's going to be so wonderful reconnecting with Susan on today's show. I love every single conversation with her because the 30 minutes just flies by like that, and it will today as well. So we'll have Susan on here momentarily. And remember, with GoTarryn Health and Fitness, it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. As I promised, we do have Susan Longley with us. And Susan, how are you doing out there today?
I'm doing great, Taryn. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good to be back with you.
Great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well and ready for this nice holiday weekend that we're having.
Right.
And
looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's so much as far as like living healthy and wellness. That's everything that you and I always talk about. But one of the things that I think we wanted to discuss today, which I found very curious and interesting, would be about gut health, because let's face it, with your history, using you as an example, you've overcome a lot. And I think you were going to talk a little bit about the lymphocytic colitis, you know, just kind of overcoming this, being diagnosed with it, and experimenting with different types of research. And maybe we could talk some of the medication too. So I just wanted to throw that out there first and just ask you about that, because that's a subject we have not broached too much into detail since we've talked.
Yeah, I haven't actually kind of gone on the record with this, but I felt like it was time. So so I appreciate you talking with me about it.
Certainly.
So I guess I'll give you some back. So I was diagnosed last year, and you know, and I guess I don't know if it just kind of came to a head. Started having actual bowel accidents. I had had chronic diarrhea for many years, but all of a sudden, it just turned over, and I was really faced with something that I needed to go to the doctor for. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. And I had been to I've had chronic diarrhea for about 30 years. And I had been to doctors, and they'd done stool samples, and they told me that they couldn't find anything. And so I had just kind of put up with it and just managed it, because I didn't know what else to do, because nobody could find anything. And and this, again, there was not the research that's been done and the information that's out there now about gut health. It's really just kind of exploded, I guess, in the past 10 years. So there wasn't really anything for me to find back then. So I really just kind of dealt with it until last year, when it just kind of came to a head and I had to do something about it. So I did have a colonoscopy, and they did a biopsy, which is how you diagnose lymphocytic colitis. It can also be called microscopic colitis, and they don't know a lot about what it's called, but they can identify the inflammation from a biopsy and tell you that that's what you have. So the doctor told me that that's what I had, and that there was nothing that could be done about it. There was some medication that might help me manage it. But that it didn't have anything to do with diet, with what I ate. So managing.
Interesting.
So she didn't have any protocols for me to follow in terms of my diet. And of course, she never mentioned exercise, which we talk about that all the time. I'm not going to talk about that so much in this video, but she didn't mention diet or exercise. She just said, I can just give you drugs. So I decided that I didn't want to go that route because I don't normally do drugs. So I started doing some research. I did take her medication at first because it did help me get it under control while I was trying to figure out what was going on. So I started keeping a food. First thing I did is I started keeping a food diary to kind of see what I was eating that made it. It was kind of bad all the time, but there were some things that I ate that made it worse. And I'm not going to. So anyway, so I started the food diary, and then I just kept researching, and I found some information about. I guess it's called intermittent fasting.
Sure.
And this is a way of fasting for 5 days while you have some packaged food that they send you, and you eat about 800 calories a day. But the kinds of foods that are in the packages it's designed to trick your body into thinking that you're fasting, whereas you're actually getting 800 calories a day, which felt to me a lot safer than just going on a water fast.
Yes.
Have you ever water fast?
I have not. I don't think I could do it.
No, it's very, very hard to do, and it can be dangerous. And as you know, I'm almost 73, so I was a little bit worried about that. So I was glad to find this. So that was the next thing that I did, was the fast, and that basically cured me for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Okay. I came off the fast. I had no more diarrhea of any kind, not the chronic diarrhea, not the overactive diarrhea, nothing. I just had normal bowel movements for 6 weeks. It was so nice because I was camping at the time. So it was really nice to have, to be able to get that under control.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I kept reading about it because they also talked about that it sometimes you have remission and but it comes back. So I kept reading about it, and I did have a remission. It did come back about 6 weeks later, and I thought it was a friend of mine took me to a really nice Atlanta restaurant, and bought me a creme brulee for dessert.
Oh,
and
nice.
I would never have done that on my own, but she was like, this is just the best thing here, and you've got to try it. And I'm buying it, and I was like, oh, please don't. It's got, how much sugar do you suppose that has in it? The creme brulee.
It's probably got a couple hundred, I'm guessing. Yeah, not too bad.
Grams, right? Yeah, I'm sure. So, but it was wonderful. It was truly delicious, and I enjoyed it. But then that it hit me again the next day. So I figured that overload of sugar probably had something to do with it. So the next thing that I had been looking at was probiotics. So I actually got a book, and I'm going to put a link on my website, on the blog page of my website for books that I recommend. And I had read Dr. William Davis many years ago, who wrote Wheat Belly. Have you read that?
I remember that.
Okay. All right. So, and he's got a new book out called Super Gut.
Okay.
So, and it's actually a program that he's developed to cure yourself of, I forget the name of it, but it's like a dysfunctional bowel, which I figured that pretty much a good description of what I had. So,
yeah.
So I went ahead and got his protocol, which he actually has you make yogurt. You buy some probiotics, and he gives you the kinds that you should buy. You buy them in little capsule form, and then you make your own yogurt.
Oh, wow.
And I make it in my Instant Pot. And you add the caps, you break the capsules open and add them to some half and half and some inulin, which is a probiotic fiber that feeds the bacteria. And then you, what is it? You don't cook it. It's only like a little over 100 degrees. But you gently heat the yogurt for 36 hours, which gives those bacteria time to grow and grow and grow and grow. So, so the yogurt that comes out as a result is, not only is it truly delicious, I have never been able to eat plain yogurt, but this stuff is wonderful. And if you do it with fresh fruit, so you're getting this huge dose of probiotics. So I started doing that, and that helped a lot. And that actually put me in remission for about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and I'm still doing that, and I'm still doing the fasting like every quarter. So, but I still have, had remissions, and I'm still working on figuring out what it is. But I guess why don't you ask me about this? Have I noticed any other results of?
Yeah, kind of at the very beginning of this, Susan, how I don't want to just throw a blanket generalization, but how a lot of doctors will say, well, you can't really do much of it, but here's some medicine, to
Right.
treat. And that's not fair to, necessarily lump them all together. But in your case, did you experience a lot of that as feedback in terms of, well, just get this medicine and we'll prescribe this for you? And if so, did that go down just not the right path, or how did that work out for you initially?
The medicine didn't work at first, and then it started working, and I've used it off and on, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's be very predictable.
Right.
And it's also a cholesterol lowering medication.
Oh,
that
really?
I really need, and
right. Good point.
An off label.
So,
and I don't, like I said, I don't like to take drugs. So I really didn't want to be taking this medication that was interfering with my metabolism.
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't want to be on medication.
Mm-hmm.
And this didn't look like a good solution. So I just, I don't know, where do I need to go back to start? Where did that?
Yeah, you answered it perfectly there, because it's like you said, earlier, you don't like to do the drugs and medications. You're very holistic, very naturopathic. And so I commend you, in terms of, for people who out there struggling, if they're watching this and they could relate and they're just at a dead end and they've tried everything, then this is so helpful. Even the yogurt that you're talking about with the natural probiotics, that's extremely invaluable. And just if there's anything else that worked for you during this process, then I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people who can relate to what you went through.
Well, I actually found a new gastroenterologist who is trained in managing this kind of gut health.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another condition that I don't know if I have or not, that's described in the book Super Gut.
Okay.
It's SIBO, SIBO. And
I've not heard of that. Okay.
It's a condition when the bacteria that are supposed to be in your colon manage to migrate into your small intestine.
Oh.
Maybe even into your stomach. And they just wreak havoc there because they're not supposed to be there, and that's not the stage of digestion that they're supposed to be operating in. They're supposed to be in your colon. So after your small intestine finishes with it, and then there's to it. But so she's a specialist in SIBO. Another thing that I would recommend to people is to try to find a functional medicine doctor or an integrative medicine doctor if you can find. The problem is most of them do not take insurance, so they can be expensive. So this may be a solution only to people that have, have the means to do it. But but they usually know more about it, and they have access to doing different kinds of tests than a regular gastroenterologist that was working with your insurance company would be able to order, because they're limited to what they could order. So so a functional medicine doctor would have other lab tests that she could order, but again, those won't be covered by insurance.
Right.
So it can be a problem. So, but I really also wanted to share is some of the other results that I've gotten the diarrhea under control, but I also had really bad reflux. So, and I had been told by the gastroenterologist that I needed to take something to calm down my stomach acid. But a lot of the research that I've done, what's happening is, hold on, let me. Sorry, what's happening is the dog is tripping over the cord to my iPad.
Oh, okay.
So I've noticed some other benefits from being on this nutritional plan. Because the other thing that I did, I don't think I mentioned this, but I also went grain free. So I'm eating any grains, not even rice or oats or anything. Definitely. I started with going gluten free, but then I added all the other grains. So I don't have any grains at all. But the results of being on this program have been that I don't have any more acid reflux. I mean, it just doesn't ever happen. I mean, it's just gone. It's completely gone. I have a huge amount of energy. A lot of people say that if you go grain free, that they're afraid that they won't have any energy because they rely on the carbs for energy. But when you're relying on carbs for energy, your body can switch over in about 3 days. So you have to give yourself a little bit of time to kind of go through the shift. And also there is a condition where you feel withdrawal from wheat because it has some things that attach to the opioid receptors in your brain. So you will feel pretty bad for about 3 days to a week. But once you switch, this is certainly my experience. I still go hiking, 5 or 6 miles at a time. I'm still a biker, a cyclist, a kayaker. I'm still out doing all kinds of stuff. And I don't have any lack of energy whatsoever. Also, I'm sleeping very, very well. And I don't really have a lot of joint pain, but I have really noticed a lot less. The only time I have joint pain is when I've been sitting for a while and I have to get up. It takes me a little bit while to kind of unfold and get going, but that's resolved a lot. So I've gotten a lot of other benefits in addition to getting the diarrhea under control.
Yeah, Susan, with all of the benefits that it's really helped you with, speaking of exercise, has it in any way affected your own workouts, be it positive or negative, since this whole change, or is that still the same, would you say?
It's still the same. I still have the same energy level. I can still do what I've been doing. So I haven't made any change in my exercise program since I was eating this way, and I still just do everything I always did.
Yeah, that's true. It seems so interesting that what you were saying about eliminating such things like, starting out with getting gluten out, then doing the whole grains out. And it's almost like this is like a perpetual evolving thing. It's almost like, are you still learning things even today with this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just constantly,
I expect once I go to this new doctor that she will give me some leads into, she will be able to do some more tests, particularly interested in finding more about the SIBO and what that means, so that I'm just trying to if I can get my gut, functioning properly. There's just so much research, so much I've read. There's another book called Grain Brain by David Perlmutter. And
that sounds familiar.
He talks about the impact of eating grains on the brain.
Okay.
So Dr. William Davis, who wrote Wheat Belly, talks about how the gut affects inflammation throughout. Basically, this is grains tend to increase inflammation in the body. So I'm trying to reduce the level of inflammation in my body all over, and expecting and getting results that are kind of all over my body.
It makes so much sense, the way you're going about it, Susan. It sounds like you're really attacking the source of this problem rather than just putting Band-Aids on it.
Right. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I don't want to take medication or.
I don't blame you. What about, have you heard of, I think it's Dr. Axe? That's another name that I've heard that's pretty big in this industry.
I've heard that. I'm not familiar.
Because, it's just like, it reminded me when you were mentioning about the gut health that, people with different ailments such as, for example, irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, we're hearing a lot of this whole gluten phenomenon, gluten intolerance and such. So Dr. Axe has really tackled this with kind of what you were saying, that it's so important with the probiotics in our body, because everything does ultimately lead to our gut, gut health, and like you said, adversely affecting that is inflammation. So you definitely, you know, for example, I think one of the things that has been known is the whole adverse effects from dairy, for example. Dairy's been linked to inflammation a lot.
Right. I eat very little dairy. I switched to cow and sheep milk for cheese.
Okay.
So fat and some sheep and goat's cheese, which seemed to be okay. And then of course I have yogurt. The yogurt, I do make it from milk, but pretty much all of the milk is digested by the probiotics. So by the time the yogurt is finished, there's not any milk solids left, or they've all been consumed by the bacteria. So pretty much, and then there's some other fermented, like soy is another thing that a lot of people feel like is inflammatory, but there's some fermented soy products, particularly miso.
Okay.
Which the fermentation takes care of what the inflammatory part of it. So I've been able to eat that. Okay. Like I said, I started with a food diary, so I kind of figured out what I can eat and what I can't eat. What's gonna mess me up, and basically right now I have a real problem with prebiotic fiber, which is the kind of resistant starches. There are not very many of them that people would be familiar with. Like a raw potato would have that kind of starch in it. Once you cook it, the starch is transformed and it's just pure carbohydrates, and you sugar basically, but when it's raw, it's called a resistant starch, and those are the things that you need to eat in order to feed the probiotics, the ones that are actually doing the work of helping you digest your food. But I have a real problem with eating those prebiotic fibers, so that can be a symptom of SIBO. So that's why I'm looking. So maybe in another couple of months, I'll come back and give you an update on how what else I've learned on it, because I'm just always researching it, always looking into it.
Yeah, you're right, Susan. You know, I've heard also, speaking of, you mentioned the fermented foods. It reminds me of, have you ever had kimchi before? Are you familiar with kimchi?
I love kimchi, yes, yeah.
I've always heard that's such a good food for digestive health, but also that it's been known as what they call a superfood, you know, because it's just very powerful in its own way, almost like a probiotic too.
Right. It helps. Yeah. I think it's another one of those things that feeds your probiotics.
Right.
The microbes that are in your gut that are supposed to be there, that are helping you digest your food, and that you could not digest without them. So if you're low on them, if you don't have enough, then you're not digesting food, because your body can't do it. Your body relies on microbes to help it with digestion. So if you're underpopulated with those microbes, then you're having digestive issues. You're having things that you're not being able to get the nutrients out of. You may be eating well, but you may not be getting all that you can from those nutrients.
Yeah. Susan, I don't recall if we've ever brought this up, but I know we mentioned the fasting. Have you ever done a cleanse before?
I haven't.
I haven't either, but I've heard benefits of some of these natural detox cleanses, like the lemon cleanse, for example. I think there's another one called the master cleanse. There's a common ingredient that a lot of these use, apple cider vinegar. Have you taken this? This is something that I know a lot of people take.
I use apple cider vinegar a lot, and sometimes I'll just drink a spoonful of it.
Yeah, because
you want the fermented kind, though. You want
exactly
the one that says it has the mother. So you have to. It's apple cider vinegar. Sometimes it's called raw apple cider vinegar, or apple cider vinegar with the mother. So that's you want, because that actually is a fermented food and will actually help your digestion.
Right. And also, Susan, I've had people, like clients, tell me that not only with digestive health and GI maintenance, but also for example, here in Atlanta, we right now are in the midst of very heavy pollen allergy season, And I think that there's been a lot of correlating benefits there, right?
Yes, yes. I don't normally have allergies, so I don't normally notice a lot, but I do notice that since I've been on this diet, I have much less congestion.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore. And I had kind of gotten rid of having colds several years ago, so I haven't had a cold in a long time. But that stuff seems to have resolved. And that's the kind of thing that inflammation anywhere in your body. So we're talking about if you have inflammation in your gut, it may be showing up in your sinuses, or or in your joints, or even in your brain.
Sure.
So it's really important that you manage the inflammation. And of course, then stress management is another thing that I'm working on.
Oh, very good point.
To develop a meditation practice for myself, which I'm really good at outdoor exercise, but I'm not real good at sitting still. So that's so I tend to prefer meditating while I'm walking by the lake or out in the woods. So, but I'm working on trying to sit. So it's
I mean, whatever works. It's all about your setting and wherever that's most where you're in your, I guess, state of Zen, right? That's what they call it.
Exactly, because the stress does contribute to inflammation.
Sure.
It triggers the body. If you're in a stress response kind of situation, then your body is be triggering, going to be producing the kinds of things that and then responding to it with inflammation. So it's kind of like an internal cycle. It's normally you would be stressed by something outside, but if you're stressed by something inside, then your body, attacks itself.
Yeah.
So and then you're dealing with inflammation as a result of the stress. So if there's a way that you can soothe yourself or calm yourself, practice gratitude, meditate, whatever, there's all kinds of ways of doing it. And you can find tons of stuff online about how to soothe stress. But
it's amazing how it's all connected, isn't it?
It is all connected. I mean, your body's all connected and your life is all connected. And really amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm really grateful for what I've been able to learn because I probably wouldn't have done this research if it hadn't been for what happened to me. And then I had a reason to not want to have to deal with it the way that I was being told I had to deal with it. I eat drugs. I said, okay, I don't really want to do that. So that drove me to look at the research, which I'm continuing to research. So
it's great, Susan. Good for you. I really give you credit for a lot of other people, including maybe myself, might have just gone ahead and thrown in the towel and just shook our head and just said, well, I guess I'm stuck. I can't get any better. And that's usually, I think, a really state of people just feeling lost. I could, again, relate to that because we've all been there with just different ailments that have affected us. But, you were so proactive. Not only did you experiment with what the doctors told you to do, but you did your own research and went beyond and were able to find such a much better and healthier, I think, way, an alternative to handle this. So good for you being able to do that.
All my clients are older, mostly in their 70s and 80s. So
sure.
I have seen what you're talking about so much.
Sure.
Is that you can tell somebody that, that possibly cutting out grains and dairy could substantially reduce their arthritis pain. And they won't even try it. I mean, I've had somebody I said, why don't you try giving up dairy for 2 weeks and let's just see what happens. And they'll say, I don't want to. I can't do that. I can't give up I can't give up my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Even for a couple of weeks. And, because I'm afraid that there's so many people that just don't believe that it would make any difference. So,
I think you're right.
We deal with that with exercise too a lot. We know plenty of people that won't even try to come to the gym. They won't even make the effort to get started and find out what it would feel like if they were active. So
so true.
Right.
Susan, you and me are probably both at the same point. Like I bet that you probably have the same mutual feeling. But if I don't work out in a day for any reason, like let's say that I just can't get to it, like my priorities are messed up and I've got personal stuff, I feel miserable. I mean, my stress level skyrockets. I feel like it wasn't a productive day if I don't get my workout in. I mean, I would guess that you're probably the same in terms of that whole I don't, it's funny, like myself, I used to work out for the physical results and say, hey, that's great. Look, I could tell a good change in my body. Now, 100%, I only work out to just keep this under control for my sanity. I mean it. I mean, if I don't work out, I just get so miserable, bad moods. Just, I mean, it's amazing.
Up there at the top for managing stress.
So, it's unbelievable.
Exercise activity, even people that, that are completely sedentary, if they would just let themselves get out and start walking.
Just simple walking, 10 minutes a day, right?
Truly trying to, but it's very hard to convince somebody that doesn't want to be convinced that that's true. So.
Absolutely. And, like we've talked about, exercise really is medicine, and it's the best medicine. It could be free. You could just do it at the comfort of wherever you're at, pretty much. But, and again, Susan, great job on being able to identify what helped you. And I think this can truly help a lot of other people who are suffering from any type of gut problems. So this is good.
To get online, give me a call if you want to. And, if you have questions about this particular, this is a particular condition, but I know that this kind of protocol that I'm following would help a lot of other people. So, I'm willing to share whatever about it. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan. Well, before we let you go, let's go ahead and get your phone number and all of your contact information now, so that way anybody's got any questions, they could follow up with you directly.
Great. It's Susan Longley at finishwithaflourish.com, 404-358-1675. So I'd love to hear from people that may have the same experience in me, that may be working on the same kind of thing that I'm working on. If you've got something that you think would help me, then give me a call. I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question, Susan. That's definitely, and again, such invaluable information and help here today. So I can't thank you enough for your time, and I really appreciate it. And you have a wonderful weekend and a happy Easter to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, Susan. And here comes your contact information as we fade to black right now.
All right. Thank you.